Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Update. Am I the idiot for threatening my father to kick him out with his family? Original post. I'm 25 male and not from the US and not looking to get into legalities, as I know where I stand on that. Some context. My father married his now wife when I was 15. She was really pushy with me because the relationship with her own daughter was almost non-existent. My father did nothing, and I ended up moving with my paternal grandpa a few months later. Grandpa passed away suddenly when I was 17, and I inherited all his properties. Instead of moving back with them, they moved with me to grandpa's house. I left when I was 18 to go to college, and I go back home a few times a year. I let them stay there rent-free as long as they don't touch my room in grandpa's office. The house has 4 rooms. Now, I got a call from him telling me that I need to clean my room, because they plan to turn it into a nursery room. Apparently, my father's wife got in touch with his daughter because she is pregnant and doesn't have a place to stay. I denied his request and reminded him who owns the house they are staying and better not touch the rooms unless they want me to kick them out. I told them there is an empty room, she can stay there, but he claims it's too small for both of them. I said that if they have a problem, they can go back to his own place. There she can take my room, though I don't know if he still has the house. I think I've been more than reasonable, but my uncle, father's brother, who doesn't have the best relationship with my father, called me to say to think about it and not kick them out. So I wonder, am I wrong? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not wrong. It's your house. You let them stay there rent-free on the condition that they don't touch those 2 rooms. I think that's more than fair. They are getting a little overly comfortable with what you are so generously allowing them to do. Even if they agree to back off of this, I think it's way past time they start paying you for living in your house. Make it abundantly clear you are doing them a favor by allowing to live there. Another option is to have OP move out. They pay rent and sign a lease agreeing everything will be returned as was, like a regular lease. But the current agreement is what it is. Not wrong, OP. Not the idiot. Talk about kicking a gift horse in the mouth. They stay for free, so they are banking all that money. They have one rule, to not touch these 2 rooms. They invited someone to live with them. I'm going to guess without permission, and only call to ask you to move your things from your house. Wow. Just wow. The audacity of those people. If I were you, I'd task someone that you hire each week or month to make visit to the property and report back to you. I actually had someone who went to the house every month to check the rooms for me when I was in college. It stopped because of the bug and never asked her again. I'd ask her to start doing it again. Yes, start it up again. When you told him no and reminded him you own the house. How did he act or say? Next time remind him he does not pay rent. And you could rent it out for actual money if you wanted to. But you do not because you prefer your room to be left alone. So, if you have your room disturbed, you would probably just rent it out. My father didn't like it but told me to think about it, and that's it. Grandpa's house is the only property I don't want to rent. Not only because of my room, but for Grandpa's office. It's a thing of beauty, and it has a mammoth of a desk, and it would be a nightmare moving it lol. Now for the first update. The day I wrote the original post, I called Mrs. LeWire to accompany me to the house to deal with this in a civil manner. Well, Saturday we went early in the morning with the paperwork. Once we arrived and I tried to open the door, I got the pleasant surprise that my father had changed the locks. Big mistake. We talked through the door, and he told me that until I changed my mind, he wasn't going to let me in. I told him that I wasn't planning to kick them out, and I was there to solve this the right way. But if he wasn't going to let me in, I was going to do it my way. He still didn't let me in. On my way to the police station, my uncle called me and said that my father called him in order to make me change my mind, but he wasn't going to do it and will support whatever I decided. In the police station, Mrs. Lawyer explained the situation to them, and they came with us so I could evict them without issues. Once there, the police spoke to them and told them they had to let me in and get their things out as soon as possible. I even hired a moving truck for them. My father tried to fight, saying that he sold his house and doesn't have a place to go, and he also claimed that he was the rightful owner. But the dimwit doesn't have any paperwork to prove it. In a last attempt, he brought up the fact that my stepsister is pregnant, but unfortunately for them, she is in the early stages and doesn't matter either way. After their circus was over, the removal of their things was quick. Most of the things in the house are mine, except for the things they have in their room and my stepsister's stuff. I'm currently in the house and plan to stay here the next few days. I have changed the locks and I'm installing security cameras. I talked to my girlfriend about moving here, and she's more than happy to do so. I'm also going to talk to my boss about the possibility to work from home, but it's not a real problem if I can't. Without having to worry about the house, figuring out the rest is easy. That's pretty much it. I think I covered everything. Thank you for taking your time with this mess I used to call family. I love happy updates. Everyone does. I'm glad you live in a country where it was even possible to remove your father and his family from your house. In Canada, these kinds of situations usually fall in the tenant's favor. If you don't mind me asking, which country are you from? I'm curious to know because the cops were really helpful in your case. Ours would have asked to take the matter to the landlord in tenant board law. I prefer not to say the country, but it is located in America, and we don't have that kind of thing over here. Here, as long as you have the legal papers in your name, things will go your way. If my father had at least one bill in his name, I would probably have to start a legal process, and things could have taken longer, but the result would have been the same. But because everything was in my name and I was paying everything, he had no case and everything was quick. In fact, my father actually committed a crime. Even if he had something to his name or a proper contract in place, he can't make modifications without my approval or deny me access. He did both. The police could have used force without the need of a legal process. That's what I wanted, but I kept it clean on the advice of my lawyer. I'm so glad you dealt with this so calmly and rationally. You should teach a class in adulting. I'll keep following you though, because I seriously doubt this is the end of the drama in your life. Keep doing you. This internet stranger thinks you're doing an awesome job. I don't know, I'm just trying to do what my grandfather taught me, but thanks for the compliments. And I hope this is the last of my problems with him. The house was the last thing that was keeping us close. How did they take it? I assume with a lot of profanities. I looked from afar, but he didn't like it and was scared, worried because the police and my lawyer were there. My lawyer did the talk. She was the one who told me what I wrote in the post. Besides, with Mrs. Lawyer there, the police and the fact he knew he was walking on thin ice, he took no chances. He complied after the police and my lawyer told him he had no case. Now for the second update. My girlfriend found this space and asked me to share our last encounters with my father, so here it goes. I let my father and his wife live free for years in my house that I inherited from my grandfather as I lived somewhere else. He had to follow one rule to live free in the house, to not touch my room and my grandfather's office. I even paid everything except for their food and entertainment. But after living there for 7 years, he thought he was the owner of the house. A few weeks ago, he let his stepdaughter move in without consulting me. There was an empty room for her, but he wanted to give her my room. He had the courtesy to call me and tell me to get my things out of my room so she could move there. I refused and told him she could use the empty room, but I guess it wasn't enough. I went to the house only to find that he changed the locks and was not going to let me in unless I agreed to what he wanted. Long story short, I kicked them out. Lawyer and police were involved. I thought my father's misdeeds were over, as the house was the last thing that was keeping our relationship alive. But I was wrong. We hadn't heard from him until a few days ago when he showed up at the house. I wasn't there, but girlfriend was. My girlfriend told me that my father was there to tell us that since we are now living in the house, we have to host them for the Christmas holidays. Not only that, he gave her a list of the food they wanted and the gifts they expected to receive. My girlfriend told him to go away before she called the police. I again thought it was over, but I was wrong again. Yesterday we received another visit from him. Apparently, he called my mother to invite her to spend the holidays with us. She blew him off and told him she will take girlfriend and I to Europe for New Year's Eve. And he had the balls to demand she take them too. My mother just hung up. Mind you, this was the first time they had spoken after divorcing 16 years ago. He came to the house to demand I convince my mother to take them too, or that we pay for them to go with us. At this point, his attitude stopped being disappointing and turned comical. My girlfriend and I just laughed at him. We laughed so hard that we didn't notice when he left. I can say that we didn't have the best relationship, but he wasn't entitled. I mean, it was already clear why my paternal grandfather was completely disappointed in him, but it seems that he wants to take it to another new level. I don't know if he will stop, but I hope he does for the rest of the year. Edit. I have a security system. There are cameras everywhere. I know if he is there. I have other properties, my tenants and people close to girlfriend and me. Even my neighbors know what to do if my father approached them in my name. I doubt he will try to break in when we're not here. When I evicted them, my lawyer and the police were more than clear that he could face serious problems if he tries to enter the house or any other of my properties. Unfortunately, in my country, any kind of restraining order is pretty much useless. It is more helpful to call the police right then and there, and he knows I have no problem calling them. Imagine living rent-free and screwing it up because your ego wants you to be the boss of those being charitable to you. What a bonehead. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time he's messed things up, but at least he's spicing them up lol. You will need to make sure you have an excellent security system that covers the entire house inside and out. Make sure it informs you of anyone coming near, even if you are in Europe, just in case he decides the house is really his and tries to either move in or show up and take what he can. You need to shut him down now and hard before it gets worse. We have a great security system in the house and its surroundings. He is also persona non grata in the neighborhood. When I evicted them, the police and my lawyer let him know that he could be in serious troubles if he tries to enter the house without my permission. Personally, I'd still be getting a house sitter if I was going to be away more than a day. Have a friend stay in your house and watch over it while you are gone. Yeah, we already talked with someone of trust to stay in the house while we are away. Now for the last story. Am I wrong for telling my mom I refused to fix a problem she and my stepsister created? When I was 15, my then 19-year-old stepsister had a baby. She was still living at home at the time and didn't know who the dad of her daughter was, so my mom and her decided I would need to babysit every day after school until someone else got home. This went on until I turned 18 and moved out of my mom and stepdad's house and in with my brother who was the same age as my stepsister. My stepsister and I were never sisters. We never called each other family or had a relationship built on anything. So I never regarded her daughter as my niece, and I never planned to be an overly involved figure. After I moved out, I saw her 3 times in the past 6 years. I did not have a strong attachment to her, and I certainly never considered her like my own. But my mom and stepsister have hyped me up to her. They have told her that all these stories that are simply not true. Stories about me cuddling her to sleep, and how I used to call her my little baby. How I adored her more than anyone else in the world. My mom had taken a few photos of me and her that she had staged at the time. They show her those as if they were moments my mom had walked in on. So, she has been waiting for this aunt figure who considers her their own child. And when we saw each other 3 times this year, mostly focused on the fact I was having a baby, she was incredibly jealous and angry. The last time was at my grandparents' house. My partner and I were focused on our baby, and she was very emotional and trying to grab my attention. This is when what my mom and stepsister had been telling her came to light. She accused me of replacing her, of my baby stealing her place and trying to push her out. She said I used to do all that stuff with her, and now I didn't and it wasn't fair. She asked my stepsister to get me to do that stuff for her again. After some questions, it came to light what she was talking about. She wanted me to dedicate myself to her the way she had been told I had. She wanted me to put her before my child. My grandparents told my stepsister to leave, and after some arguing, she did leave with her daughter. Then they asked my mom what the hell she'd been thinking. And what happened from there is my mom called after everyone else had left my grandparents and told me I needed to talk to stepsister's daughter and help them fix the hurt she was going through. I told her it was not my job to fix a problem she and my stepsister created. My mom told me it was about a child, not about them, and I was not being very compassionate. Am I in the wrong? Nope. First they forced to babysit for 3 years. Then they expect you to be super aunt and focus solely on the kid. Do I feel bad for the child? Yes. But the mom and stepsister created this fantasy and need to deal with it. They want you to be involved in fixing it so that they don't have to take the blame for what they did. If you try to deal with it, it will be your word against theirs, and the replacement theory may be reinforced. Mom and stepsister need to own up to their lies. Poor kid, not the idiot. Not to mention, what do you even say? Sorry, kid, I never cared about you all that much. My mom and your mom are both big liars, so at least we have that in common. Either OP becomes a doormat and neglects her own kid, or she breaks her stepniece's heart and becomes the bad guy in her eyes. It will always be easier for the child to turn against OP than against her mother. Not in the wrong. While she's right in saying that this is about the child, there's no reasonable way for you to fix what they caused. To be honest, I wonder what exactly they expect you to do. Give up your own baby and adopt her. If your roughly 9-year-old niece is that fixated on an aunt she's hardly seen for most of her life, and particularly for most of the life she can remember, something is wrong in her own home. Yes, she needs someone to help her, but that should be a professional. You've done nothing wrong. Of course it's a bit sad you never formed an actual connection, but that doesn't make you an idiot. You were a teenager who didn't choose to become a free babysitter for 3 years. Congrats on your own child. It honestly sounds like the girl does not have a trusted adult. Nothing excuses her horrible behavior, but I suppose it's like kids who wish for their real parents to come rescue them. However, it's simply insane that a 9-year-old child expects to be coddled over a literal infant. I was expecting her to be much younger with that attitude. Maybe not. If stepsis and OP's mom were neglecting the child's emotional needs or not prioritizing her properly, which feels very likely since OP loved to do X with you, could easily become a way to avoid doing X while telling her those stories about OP. It can be that OP had become this mythical being that would prioritize her, make her feel special, and be there for her. 9-year-olds still can't express themselves or do emotions well. Everything here could be less a desire to be coddled and more a response to the fantasy of being someone's first priority crumbling in front of her eyes, and her trying to stop that happening.